Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Elias, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about all of the most anticipated books that I want to read in 2024. For this one, I'm going to be doing it a little bit different this year. Instead of going through new releases, I'm also going to be talking about a lot of backlisted books that I own, books from authors that I've read from before, authors that I've been waiting to read from, as well as a couple announcements, some fun things that I plan on doing this year with my channel. So this video is going to be a little of a mess, but we're going to go with the books that I don't have yet, my most anticipated unreleased books of 2024, and then we're going to go quickly into the books that I do own. So I guess we'll start off with the announcement first, but it's not really an announcement. It's just this video idea that I've had. It's essentially two video ideas that will pretty much span and differ in terms of content. So the first one will be a video where I read my subscribers, your recommendations that you guys sent out and gave to me in the community tab, where I asked you guys, give me some of your recs. What books should I read that you think I might enjoy? And also doing sort of like a TBR takeover where you guys also give me TBR prompts on what I should read. So the first one is sort of like your recommendations, and the second one are books I should read based on your TBR prompts. So yeah, nothing really big and nothing really major, but I thought it would be a really fun idea to do. So yeah, watch out for something similar along those lines within the next coming months. All right, so for this one, we have my first most anticipated YA book of the year, and this is the Invocations by Krystal Sutherland. So I read her first book, House of Hollows, and I instantly fell in love. The way she would describe certain things felt very ethereal. Like the first book had some sort of sophisticated edge to it. It honestly was giving me the same vibes as a fashion editorial magazine. The story was really interesting and really unique. I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something edgy in the YA genre, right? So for this one, the Invocations, which comes out on January 30th, this one primarily is all about the female rage, follows 3 different female characters and how they all get interconnected with each other and their past, and how they all have to survive and go against a serial killer. So yeah, that comes out super soon, and I'm really excited for it. So this next one is a thriller called Kill for Me, Kill for You. This one sounds really interesting because it reminds me of a similar plot to The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. Literally one of my first and best thriller books I've ever read. So this one primarily follows 2 different young women who meet up at some bar and realize they have a lot of common regarding the relationships with men in their lives. So what turns out to be a little jest over some drinks kind of turns into, an idea, a spark. If you kill for me, I'll kill for you. So yeah, that's pretty much all I know, and that's all I want to know. And this one comes out on March 19th. So this next one is called The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. All I know about it is that it takes place during the golden age of Spain, and it primarily follows this young girl who can perform small miracles. And that's pretty much it. I mean, the cover looks really interesting, and it just sounded different, and it's also from Leigh Bardugo, of course, right? Who I have to say has such an interesting collection of works. It ranges from YA to adult. You have Shadow and Bone, Ninth House, and this one comes out on April 9th. All right, so this next one is a horror novel, and it's called Ghost Station. So this one sounds really interesting. It primarily follows the space exploration crew trying to find answers on this ancient abandoned planet. However, their pilot is gruesomely murdered, and so our main character has to step up and figure out what exactly is happening. Are they alone on this planet, or is there something else out there? And this one comes out on April 9th. Our next book, also a thriller, but from Riley Sager, is called Middle of the Night. This one surprised me because I thought his previous book would be his last one for a long while before he goes on hiatus, but apparently not, because this one comes out this year. And I gotta say, I'm feeling different vibes with this one. It's not gonna have the trademark Riley Sager, hot handyman, poor girl, haunted house, tragic past scenario, I think. But it sounds very different, and I'm very keen to see if he'll sort of go back to his roots with his earlier books, which I really, really liked. To bring back some of that spark, some of that thrill that has been missing in his previous books lately for me. So this one comes out on June 18th. So this next book is called Horror Movie, and this one's by Paul Tremblay. So this one sounds really interesting, and I'm really excited to see where this goes because it takes the trope of the cursed tape, like The Ring, for an example. So it revolves around this tape, this movie that got made. However, only 3 of those scenes have been released to the general public. So something really tragic happened to the original crew that worked on it. They all got killed, massacred, died in horrible ways. However, there's only one remaining survivor. And from what he remembers from his time on set, soon, however, his memories and realities start to blur as Hollywood once again wants to make a remake of this special movie that was released a long time ago. That's pretty much all I know, but it sounds like it'll be a really good bloody time. So for this little segment, I'm going to dedicate it to sequels I want to read that will be released in the coming year. So first up, we have book 2 in the Emily Wilde series, and this one is called Emily Wilde's Map to the Otherworlds. And this one, I believe, is actually out already. This is the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which I thought was okay. I liked it to an extent, enough to read the sequel and, wanting to continue on with the story itself. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought the ending of the first book was very underwhelming and lackluster. And so, yeah. Oh, also, do not read the synopsis for book 2 if you do not want to be spoiled, at all, because it literally gives away a heavy spoiler for the first book. So, just an FYI. So this next release, also YA, is book 2 in the Stolen Heir trilogy. So this is another spin-off trilogy, duology from Holly Black within the same world as The Cruel Prince. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It comes out on March 5th, and I'm looking forward to see how she all brings it together again. Last and not least, in this category, we have Winter's Loss, which is book 14 in the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. So this is a cozy comfort series to me. I reread the books pretty much every other year, and it's just always a good time. I love going back into this world with all the characters, the found family trope, and there is just so much story materials regarding the mythology of certain characters, like werewolves, the supernatural, the paranormal. There's just so many things that the author does with it that I just find so fascinating. It's almost like I'm reading about these supernatural creatures for the first time, even though there's this sense of familiarity with it because, supernatural creatures like werewolves and vampires are, very classic, very common. But this series is just very fun. Book 14 is coming out this year, and I'm very excited because it's been 2 years since, book 13. And this one comes out on June 18th. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to quickly show you guys the books that I physically own that I want to read this year that are high on my TBR list. First up, we have a book that I actually have already started and I just never finished, but it's The Goblin Emperor by Katherine Addison. And so far from what I read, I really liked it. Our main character is sort of like a naive cinnamon roll, and in the 50 pages that I have read, it's good. It follows our goblin prince who has a heart of gold, who just wants everyone just to get along and be friends and all that, but he is thrust in the middle of this conflict between politics and warfare in the kingdom's court after his father and his brother were assassinated. So I'm very curious to see how he'll, navigate all those court proceedings and all that. And so yeah, it's also a standalone as well. So this next one is The Lies of Locke Lamora, and I've heard nothing but great praises for this. It primarily follows this young outcast, a thief, who creates this group that is really renowned and feared in the underground belly of the criminal underworld. That's pretty much all I know about it. I saw this book recommended a lot when I was searching on Reddit to books that were similar to The Realm of the Otherlands, which is my favorite fantasy series of all time. But yeah, this is what I got. Speaking of The Realm of the Otherlands series by Robin Hobb, we have the second to last quartet series that I really want to get to before the end of the year. I essentially want to finish the entire series by the end of the year. We'll see if that happens though, because I still have 7 more books to read in the series, because after this quartet, we have our last and final trilogy. And even though I haven't finished the series in its entirety, I already know halfway through every single book, a work of art, chef's kiss, my favorite thing in the entire universe. Fitz the Fool, I just cannot. The way Robin just crafts these characters and their stories and their relationships with each other, it is just, I don't know how she does it. I have never read anything like this series in other books before, or the characters and the relationships. It's just such a beautiful thing to read. I talked about the last 3 trilogies, even gave dedicated video reviews to each of them as well that you guys can check out. I feel like compared to other fantasy authors, she's a little underrated, which, I kind of like, but also I want everyone to read all of her books. This one's a little different because it primarily follows a different set of characters in a different part of the world. She's done that already with The Ship of Magic. And while I did have, preconceived notions on whether or not I would enjoy the trilogy, oh my god, Ship of Magic. Okay, I already made videos talking about each set, so you guys can watch that, spoilers and non-spoilers. Obviously, don't get spoiled, but it is just fantastic, and I just, fucking love every single one. So, alright, the next fantasy series that I've been really wanting to get into is probably my most recommended fantasy series out there from you guys, and it's Jade City by Fonda Leigh. Every single one of you, every time I ask for a fantasy recommendation, It's this trilogy right here. I don't know too much about it, surprisingly, but all I know is that it primarily follows two opposing sort of like mafia groups and their control over jade and crystals, because that's where most of their power comes from. That's pretty much all I know, but I've heard so many good things, so my expectations for the series is a little up there, but I will be making it my mission to officially start the series this year. Next, we have Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. So I've read the first book of Mistborn and the first book of The Way of Kings. And apparently I was asking around after finishing the first book in The Way of Kings, what is a good reading order? And apparently Warbreaker, which is a standalone, is the next book to read. Not book 2 in The Way of Kings. I believe book 2 was called Words of Radiance, but you read this first because it has several plot points or characters that will appear in that book 2. But yeah, I'm just hoping that this one will be good because I really want to get back into book 2. But everyone is saying read Warbreaker first, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so that is pretty much all of the fantasy. Let's get into some of the literary fiction. First up, we have Shuggie Bain. When I first saw this book, for the longest time, I was pronouncing it as Shuggie Brain, but that's not the case. I've also seen and heard a lot from this author as well. Both of the books that he has written so far, which is this one, Young Mungo, I've heard nothing but just so much praise for both of them. They deal with like different things. I just know with this one, it deals with like motherhood, drug abuse, grief, death, sexuality, and all that. So I am prepared to get my heart broken and become depressed. So looking forward to it. Next up, we have a Japanese author that I have been really wanting to get into for the longest time. This one is Never Let Me Go. All I know about this one is that it primarily follows a group of friends, and that's pretty much it. Also, I think it's really interesting when I ask people who aren't normally like booktubers or book reviewers and all that in like the bookish space or community what their favorite book is, and so many of them actually mention this book, this one specific book. So looking forward to it. Okay, so last but not least, speaking of Japanese translated fiction, I also had to include a book by Haruki Murakami with Norwegian wood. I was debating between this and Kafka on the Shore. I just don't know which book I want to read first, but I have heard a lot regarding those two books in general. I have read from Murakami before, but it's like this short novella, which, doesn't really count in my opinion. I'm really looking forward and checking out his books because it seems we have a lot of polarizing opinions here. So that is the list, all of my most anticipated and top priority books I want to read in 2024. Please let me know down below your picks for this year. I will also leave my Patreon link down below in case if you guys are looking for extra and exclusive content from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all soon with a new video.